We're back with the question and answer session. So, first question, can you confirm that the requirements being presented apply to all applications to CDER, not just those going to the Office of Vaccines? I cannot confirm that. I only am presenting for the Office of Vaccines. So if you are wondering what the other offices are doing within CDER, you need to talk to that review division. Another question. The SDSP for CDER seems to contain a lot of information which is already in the defined file. Please explain the difference. The difference is in the timing. We are wanting the CDER SDSP provided probably at the end of phase 2. We're still kind of trying to figure out what the best timing is, but we want to know before you start your big pivotal trial what data is going to look like, what domains, what variables you're going to be using, and we want to come to an agreement before you even begin that trial so that everything is standardized according to the way we would like to see it, and you also understand and agree with it. And then I'll do one more, and then I'll let Kirk answer a few. We have noticed discrepancies between the therapeutic area user guides and the implementation guide for SDTM. In those cases, which one should prevail? The TOGs are just examples that are allowing users that are in those particular areas to understand where data could be put and how they should, be put into the various domains and variables. That, in each of those cases, you need to talk to the review team if you're confused as to how it should be formatted and put into the data set itself. So I think I've answered that question sufficiently.
This is Kirk Prutzman. One of the questions is the Office of Vaccine using Pinnacle 21 Enterprise to validate the SDTM data sets? This will be published by the version of the software of Pinnacle 21, which we are using Pinnacle 21 software, but we don't know what version we're using right now, right as we sit here. But this will be published on the website sometime after October. Let's see. MEDRA allows for one PT to be mapped to different SOCs. Why is this an issue here? While that, I'm sure that, there are several examples of this, that's fine which one you choose, but you should be consistent how you choose to map your PT to an SOC, because we want to be able to search the SOCs to find adverse events of interest.
And that's within one data set. The example we provided was one data set, one trial, and they had it all over the place. Give us a few seconds here. Let's see. If the CRF captures two AEs with the same term for the same subject, are we expected to collapse them into one row on the STM? Well, it depends on the timing of those two AEs. If the two AEs are actually one AE that you kind of divided into different severities, but it all came in at the same time, then that is one AE. If it was divided between two different time points within that clinical trial, then it would be considered two AEs. So you got to think about if it's all a related one or not. And again, you can always ask the review team.
So we had several questions regarding null cells, whether that be used in SDTM or in ATOM. So we recognize, first of all, that there may be times when a null cell makes sense. In that case, you should be very clear when you make your submissions where we might see null cells and what they mean, data not collected, etc. However, in general, it would be hard to imagine a case where you collect your reactogenicity adverse events, or that is your solicited adverse events, where there is a null cell. We expect to see, for example, injection site pain. We expect to see there was injection site pain or there was not injection site pain, so that we know that the subject was asked about it and actually said that they did or did not receive injection site pain. So for reactogenicity results, it's hard to imagine where we wouldn't see all cells populated, but in other adverse events, there could be a case, but please, please let us know where that's occurring.
Next question is, will Cedar recommend submitting the annotated case report form with the protocol? I don't know. You need to talk to that review division. There was a question regarding the Fuse SDSP and if Sivir SDSP is related to that. It is the initial part of the Fuse SDSP is within the Sivir SDSP. We have additional information that we hope that Fuse will sometime be able to publish in the near future as an appendix containing all the tables with that additional data that we're looking to have.
There are also several questions regarding multiple ways to capture AE when severity changes. What we prefer in the Office of Vaccines is that there is one line, STTM line in AE for an event. The event may change from a non-severe to a severe adverse event. In that case, we would like you to capture all of the relevant information in the FA domain so that we can see as it trends. Maybe in the case that I showed, sepsis went from mild or moderate to severe. We would just like to see the trending in the FA domain, and we'd like the AE domain to capture the highest severity. Okay.
There was somebody requesting clarification of the new requirements for submitting study data. I think we already went through this in our discussion presentations. All studies started after December 17th, 2016 have to be submitted to the FDA in SDTM ATOM dataset format. Somebody asked about what the format for phase 1 and 2 study data should be. Well, if you're planning on submitting that to the BLA as supportive data, then it should be, it can be in the format depending on the day that it started. It can be legacy data format. Of course, you can always convert it over to SDTM, and SDTM format is, of course, required of anything that started after December 17th.
We had a question regarding reactogenicity events, and it is, should they always be submitted in CE, even if they continue beyond or occur after a reporting period defined per protocol? So there's going to be updates to the TCG guidance that will address this topic.
There was an additional question, and I think this might be our last one that we can answer. Should the integrated summary of safety and integrated summary of efficacy data follow CDISC data format? Well, yeah, it should. If you're putting this together, I think it would be beneficial to be able to follow CDISC format.
And now we pass the question and answer over to Virginia Husong.
Thank you. Hi, okay, so the first question I'm answering is, are there standards or required standards for chemistry data? So there are no required standards yet. However, there is a plan in the works to standardize the data that's submitted in ECTD Module 3. In fact, there was a Federal Register notice that was just published this past Tuesday. It's entitled Draft Standardization of Pharmaceutical Quality / Chemistry, Manufacturing, and Control Data Elements and Terminologies. This terminologies document was published for comment. If you'd like to go to regulations.gov and look this up, it's docket number FDA-2017-N-2166. And it's a 2-month comment period, so the comments are due back in 2 months. Next question, will recommendations from the Cedar presenters be relevant to submissions to Cedar? Generally, no. The majority of this webinar is talking about Sivir specific recommendations that are being made. So for Cedar, you can direct your questions to eData, the eData mailbox, which will be listed at the end of this presentation and is up on the screen at the moment. But we're talking about right now Sivir specific, and this is the first time that we've had the opportunity to present Sivir specific information in a webinar, and we hope to be bringing additional information from other offices in the future. Next question, for PBPK data and program files in general, do we need to change the file extensions to .text? So the answer for that is, for modeling and simulation program files, refer to the file format specification document. A lot of people don't realize that we do have a file format specification document for submission to Cedar and Sivir. It's found on the ECTD website, which is www.fda.gov/ECTD. On that website, on the right-hand side of the page, there is a PDF file entitled ECTD Submission Standards. If you click into that, you will find the file format specification document. So there are some file types for PBPK that are now allowed, so you would not need to send those as text, but we are thinking that we may possibly address this issue in a future technical conformance guide. But if you do have additional questions on this, please send email to edata@fda.hhs.gov. Next question, Atom IG 1.1. When will it be in the data standards catalog? So the answer to this is it is currently under review. Announcements on new versions will be made on the website and in Federal Register. So keep your eyes peeled for the Federal Register announcement. Is CDASH required? CDASH is not an FDA requirement. It is strongly encouraged. As Kirk also mentioned, you should submit an annotated case report form with your SDTM data and your protocol, but CDASH is not specifically required by the FDA. Is there a time frame when studies have to start complying with CDISC at the time the study starts? I think maybe you're asking what is the definition of the study start date, and the definition is the time that the first subject signs the informed consent form. Last question, should ISS and ISE data follow CDISC? And the answer to that is yes. And with that, I will turn it over to Ron Fitzmartin.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Let's see. First question. Oh, there's a question on when I mentioned TA extensions. Well, that's what CDISC, the Standards Development Organization, refers to them as, extensions of the SDTM standard. So what are they? They could be variables, so there could be changes in terminology. It could be changes, it could be a new domain. So it could be a number of different components of the standard. So FDA looks at the CDER standards that it requires as SDTM, ATOM, SEND, this is SEND for CDER, not for CBER, and also listed in the catalog is define XML. So hopefully that answered that question. Let's see what else we have here. Is it okay, I think we may have addressed this, is it okay to submit define PDF in addition to define XML? Yes, we need the .xml because that's required, but if you want to submit the PDF with it, you can do that. Is a TS XPT required even for legacy studies that do not have data sets submitted with them? No, it's certainly not required. If you're not submitting data, if there's no XPT, then when we do turn on the validation, it initially looks for XPT files. So if you haven't submitted them because you're submitting just a PDF report, there's no issue there. Let's see. Do legacy studies need to include a dm.xpt dataset? No. I would assume you're submitting legacy data. There might be a demography. If you're submitting data for your legacy study, there is a demography file, but you're not required, because it's legacy, we are not requiring it to be in CDIS format. Let's see what else we got here. There's a question on validator rules for SEND. As many of you know, we have the validator rules posted for SDTM. The rules for SEND are currently in review, and when they are ready, we will post them to the web page with the SDTM rules. Let's see, what else? I think that's that. Please verify that only the abbreviated, there's no, so we don't have any term on this. This is the question that has come in. There's no definition, no term that we have used called an abbreviated ts.xpt. So is required for legacy studies. What I would assume they're asking is obviously the trial summary XPT has a number of variables in it. If it's a legacy trial, we're saying what we need is the study start date. And that study start date is certainly in the SDTM IG, but we have also codified it in the binding guidance too. In one of the footnotes in the guidance, it talks about the variable that we need in the trial summary XPT. Let's see what else. How will FDA post a 30-day notice? Will it be explicit on the ESUB ECTD website? Yes, of course. It will be on a number of web pages. It will probably appear not only on the ECTD web page, along with the where the data set information is, technical rejection criteria document is located, but we'll also post it on the study data standards web page as well. It'll be well posted. Let's see, what else? This is about it. Most of these are Cedar. I'm going to turn it over to Bhanu.
Okay, Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the comments we received for the bioresearch monitoring inspections. Okay, one of the question is, do PMAs, I think in one of my slides it's also mentioned PMA, so do PMAs submitted need to follow standards, CDER standards? The answer is no. That slide is our general review timeline. And the next question is, why doesn't Cedar utilize the OSI BIMO data package, which is the Cedar's process as defined by Cedar in order to perform our work? Our business process is different from Cedar's site selection business process. So we still use our internal database, and so this is the process we have available to us. And the next question is, what if we are conducting a forecast BIMO inspection of clinical investigator, and what data we would verify? And yes, it is the source data, whatever that's available at the site, and obviously this will be blinded data. And then the next question is, do you have any suggestions related to ePro data requirements, that's electronic patient reported outcome, based upon paper or ePro e-diaries? The answer is, please discuss with the particular product office and let FDA know how you are collecting the data and what will be available at the study site for inspection, because we inspect records and source data. And another question here regarding site ID, and I think a couple of comments on that same line. The question relates to regarding the lack of site ID on SDTM domains other than DM, and one person had asked, why can't we use the ADAM data to get this information and merging ADSL onto the SDTM domain? We are still using the SDTM domain, and I know there is an opportunity to merge data, but since that is derived data, we are trying to stay away from that, but we know there is an option. We may have to write a code to get that particular information, because on that same, there was another question here that had the same concern, that inclusion of site ID for all data sets violates CDER STTM-IG, and so they want to know if CBER plans to express a need to see disk. We are still having some internal conversations, because when we have to select sites for inspection within the first 30 to 45 days, especially it is a bigger study with 10,000, 15,000 subjects without the site ID on various other data sets, it is very challenging for us. So we know it's available in DM set, but it's challenging to use from other data sets. So we are still working and having internal discussions as to how to move forward. And so yeah, more questions on that. And let's see, what else do I have? Okay, somebody had asked about use of screen failures in the determination for site selection for inspections. We review the data that also includes screen failures, which may be in the disposition DS data set. So we read the data set completely along with other data set to make a determination. Then the next, what other question? Okay, yeah, there are a couple of questions not necessarily related to my topic, but some of this I was told I can answer. So you had mentioned you did not want to receive defined.pdf file, so they wanted to know will your submission be rejected if the define.pdf and define.xml are both submitted? The answer is no. And there is another question here. Are these study data standards applicable to phase 1 and phase 2 studies submitted in an IND application? The answer is later part of this year, after December 2017. That's all we have at this point. Thank you very much.
And we'll take a short pause while we review to see if there's any additional questions. We'll be right back.
Okay, hi everybody, this is Ginny again. So we have 2 more questions to answer. The first one is, any clinical trial study starting after December 17th, 2016 should follow CDISC standards. What about ISS data? How can we set the starting date for ISS, ISE data? So that section for ISS and ISE, that ECTD section that it goes under, which is 5353, is exempt from the rejection criteria. So there wouldn't be, we wouldn't expect to see a TS domain for the ISS, ISE. The next question, could you please clarify what changes when the 30-day notice is published? What changes is that we are now going to turn on the validation criteria and start rejecting. So that's what the 30-day notice is about. So this was originally, this criteria was originally revealed sometime last fall. So it's been a long time. It's been out there. We've talked about it at in several webinars. We've done several presentations on it. So the idea is that you've had a lot of time to get used to these requirements. The requirements are valid now. So when we give the 30-day notice, we're saying in 30 days from now, we're going to activate this criteria and we're going to start our automated rejection process. So I hope that clarifies things. And then we'll hand it over to Brenda.
Thank you all to our speakers for your very informative and timely talk, and for responding to so very many questions. We have many more questions that we don't have the time to address. So please, if you did not get your question answered, please send them accordingly to those 2 email addresses there on this slide, whether it's Cedar related or Sivir related. And as a reminder, this activity has been pre-approved by RAPS as eligible for up to 1.5 credits towards the participant's RAC certification. And you get that by completing the survey. And again, on this last slide, you can click where it says, click here for evaluation and certificate, and be sure to get that in good time. It's only open for 2 weeks. We'll close on July 27th. So on behalf of Cedar Small Business and Industry Assistance, we hope that you enjoyed today's presentation and found it helpful. We look forward to your presence at future webinars, which will be advertised on our website at www.fda.gov/Cedar SBIA webinars. Thank you and have